Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Records and Rants. But this is a really special one. Today, we're celebrating the anniversary of We Are the World, but I can't do it without Dixon. How are you?
It's great to be back. Wow, pretty loaded statement to suggest that we are, in fact, the world. Is that what you're saying to the listeners out there? Is that what you're saying?
We are the world.
You and I are, in fact, the world. Okay, interesting.
All that encompasses it.
No, obviously we're talking about the smash single
Yes.
from the supergroup. Right. Obviously, from the smash supergroup USA for Africa. Real great title. And, it's funny because when you said, let's listen to We Are the World, you suggested this again. This is you have these little outlook, let's call them documentaries you kind of put together, which I really appreciate.
Well, thank you.
You said, let's listen to this. And I'm thinking, that song. Well, it's a little past the holidays. Do we know it's Christmas time at all? But that I was thinking it was Band-Aid.
Yes.
Turns out this is following the Christmas song by Band-Aid. I didn't realize Band-Aid was exclusively UK, and this was obviously the USA for Africa. Pretty interesting stuff. And here we are talking about it. Listened to it for the first time ever. Always knew it existed. Always had heard rumblings about it. Now here we are talking about it, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. It hit my news feed, and I looked at it. It's like, okay, January 29th. It's the anniversary of We Are the World, but it's not the anniversary of the release. And I'm like, well, what is it the anniversary of? This is kind of interesting. It's actually the anniversary of the recording,
right?
The final recording of the song. And I'm like, well, why? Who cares, right?
Right.
I didn't really know much about this, but then, as I was looking into it, it turns out this was like a huge deal for the time. The recording itself is the story here. I mean, that was like a super detailed, oriented feat that they pulled off, having over 40 of the biggest music stars in the 80s come together and sing this song for one single night. It was a pretty incredible feat, to be honest with you.
Yes. No, yeah, definitely. Because you look at the list of these people and who was there and all that. It's to get all these people together on the same day. Seems like it was quite the feat. And typical, like 80s era stuff. But you have some people that have been around for a long time. You had Ray Charles. You had Bob Dylan. You had Harry Belafonte was in the mix there. Pretty interesting stuff and pretty interesting group of people. And you'll talk about this too, but the solos, I think, are the most important part and probably the most hilarious part as well of the whole thing.
Absolutely. We'll definitely get into that. Now, Dixon, do you remember us talking about Do They Know It's Christmas in our top Christmas songs special?
Right, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I totally forgot about it, and I was like, oh my god, I remember talking about this. We were talking about Band-Aid and Do They Know It's Christmas. I think one of us said it was one of the greatest, or it was like a runner-up or something like that.
Yeah, I recall that, yeah.
I always really liked that song, but yeah, so this...
Me too.
So this guy Belafonte came... he was the one that started Band-Aid. He put this all together. He put this whole thing together. He put Do They Know It's Christmas together. He started that, but then he said he wanted to make a song in America to help the African famine crisis that was going on. He's like, well, I got to make a song in America now. So
right.
What he ended up doing was enlisting essentially Lionel Richie to help put this all together. And if you watch the documentary, I don't know if you saw it, Dixon, but I saw some of it.
There's a documentary on Netflix about this, right? It's just released the last couple of days. And I mentioned I wanted to check it out, but I haven't yet.
Yes. So this guy he was Bob Geldof. He put it all together, and he got everyone together, and Lionel Richie and Michael Jackson were essentially the heads of it at the time, and they wrote the entire thing.
And what's interesting is, and just some context, because Harry Belafonte, I didn't realize Harry Belafonte has that song, Banana Boat Day, daylight come
yes.
and me want to go. I feel like that's like a perfect cover. But yeah, so he had that song, but he was like, he don't know if he's still alive, or maybe he just might have just passed away. Um, but he had like 60 albums, like a ton of songwriting credits, a ton of hits, like a pretty important figure in music of that era, 20th century music, which I think is pretty impressive. I don't think he gets enough, like maybe recognition or credit. But for him to essentially put this together is pretty impressive as well. That he kind of like says, you know what, let's just get everybody together and do a song. Like that's kind of cool, you know what I mean?
I know, yeah,
And,
yeah, absolutely.
and from what I understand, Geldof did um, Live Aid as well. That the 1985 concert series where there was a different concert in every like at certain countries in the world, and they were all together at the same time.
Yes.
So, I mean, that's kind of cool. And that seems like that was his whole career. I think he was involved. Wait a minute, stand by. Let me just scratch my own curiosity here.
Yeah.
Let me see if this is true. I didn't want to say it because it's such a stupid thing if it's true. Yes, he was in. That's what it is. He was. Yeah, I knew there was a connection to Pink Floyd. He was in the movie The Wall that Pink Floyd had, and co-wrote the song that we both love for Christmas. Do they know it's Christmas?
Yes.
So pretty interesting stuff at how this kind of got started.
Yeah, it really is, and it's kind of incredible the kind of pull that that Lionel and Michael Jackson have. Which I maybe it's not so amazing because they were like insane stars at the time, but
Right.
they just start calling everyone and reaching out to them and asking them, and everyone that they got in touch with turns out that they really wanted to do this. Like everyone came together and they thought it would be good to kind of come together and get on this thing. I think there were a few people that couldn't make it. I think like Eddie Murphy because he was busy singing some other song.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
They just needed Eddie Murphy there.
Yeah.
The big thing.
And as I was looking at all the people, like you said, a couple people stuck out to me. First off was Dan Aykroyd. And I thought that this guy was just from the friggin' Ghostbusters. Did you know that he was a singer?
No, I had no idea. Well, he was in I guess Blues Brothers. I guess that makes sense in reality now that I think about it. But no, I had no idea.
Yeah. And
that is so funny.
I thought that was pretty funny. And then
yeah, that is funny.
So you have all these people in the chorus, and we can't list them all off. There's tons of people, but then you look to the soloist, and there are people that sung in unison, but also have recorded solo parts. So you have people like Lionel Richie, Stevie Wonder, Paul Simon, Kenny Rogers, Willie Nelson, Billy Joel, Bruce Springsteen. But then you keep going, Dixon. Of all these people, and then out of nowhere, I could not believe it, he returns to us Bob Dylan listed in the credits for one of the soloists of We Are the World.
Possibly, when you consider the idea of all of these people as soloists, they all pretty much make sense, with the exception of Bob Dylan. Because not that I would think that Bob Dylan, obviously I think he cares about people, but
yes,
the first thing I think he would say is like, "Oh, let's try to get Bob Dylan." He'd be like, "Well, no, I'm not doing this goofy single." Like, that's what I would think his initial impression would be. But then to consider him to be to use his voice, which is distinct, it stands on its own.
Absolutely.
But I wouldn't say it's like a Tina Turner or a Michael Jackson or a Diana Ross as far as vocal quality may go, which is so surprising and probably why you were so surprised as well.
I was honestly shocked. And it was pretty funny because throughout the documentary, every time they mentioned Bob Dylan, Lionel kind of laughs. He's like, "Yeah, then we have Bob Dylan over there," and he just starts speaking.
Oh my gosh!
But I guess like a respectful way, but it's kind of funny because they keep mentioning how Bob Dylan is this. He's an enigma. That they quote said enigma. He's kind of like how we said when we talked about him. He's just like above and beyond like anyone else could think about him. You don't know what he's doing. Is he a troll? Like, I don't know. And I thought that while I was watching this, but we'll definitely get into that when we get into the solo parts, because I honestly thought that was Bob Dylan honestly stole the show for me when I was watching how they made this whole thing.
That's
But
awesome.
one of the most interesting parts about this, um, that made it so cool was that they recorded this
Uh-huh.
on the night of the American Music Awards. So leading up to this, Michael Jackson and Lionel Richie were writing the song, and I think they
Hmm.
wrote it in like, I think it was like 7 days or something.
Okay.
And the night before recording, they completed it. Lionel Richie goes to the American Music Awards. He hosts it and
Okay.
wins 6 awards there, and then leaves there and immediately goes to the A&M studio to record this whole thing. So all the people that they had at the AMAs leave there and go to the recording studio.
Really? Huh.
So they all get, yeah, it was, I was like, this is kind of nuts. And I think that's how they pull it off, because I think a lot of people that were signed up for the recording were at the awards, and then some people who were, just traveling around. I think I don't know if Bruce Springsteen was there, but I think some people traveled in as well though too.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, so everyone gets in, and I don't know if you saw this, but one interesting thing is they put a sign at the top of the door as all the musicians were going. It says, "Check your ego at the door."
Oh, wow. Interesting.
And I'm like, you know what? You probably need something like that, because the ego in that room must have been incredible.
Yeah.
It must have been very high.
Yeah. Had it. Yeah, for sure. 100%. Um, yeah, wow, this is really like in a logistical feat when you think about all the moving parts that occurred.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting that they say check your ego out the door, whereas everybody in the room is wearing street clothes, and you have Michael Jackson in some sort of army uniform from the 1700s.
I know.
It's kind of interesting, isn't it? When you put that in perspective.
It really is. It really is. So yeah, so they all get in the room. Beldoff does like a speech to everyone, and then this guy, Quincy Jones, he was
Yes.
essentially like the conductor of the whole thing. He was the producer,
Yes.
and he kind of wrangled everyone together.
Yeah. Important producer. Important songwriter. You definitely like a long and storied career, diverse career as well. Worked with a lot of different acts throughout the years, and I think he's still active.
Yeah, and I mean, he seemed like super talented from the documentary that I watched, because I mean, I think it takes a lot to be able to get that many people. You have 40 of like the biggest stars in the world here, but
Yeah.
you're able to get them to do what you want, essentially.
Yes.
To say like,
Right.
we need you higher. They were doing all sorts of stuff, which was pretty interesting. It's like, okay, we need the octaves now. If you can't sing this, then just don't even try. And it's pretty funny, because at this point they zoom in on Bob Dylan. Quincy's like, just don't even try if you can't do this part. Or we're getting the octaves here. And then you just see Bob Dylan, like, he's in the middle of like all these people, and he's just looking, he looks so uncomfortable, and he's looking down at his music sheet, and then just like as people are singing, he's like looking around at them like confused. That was the point where Bob Dylan just stole the show. I was more interested in him than anything else.
I've seen that video before. And I think I mentioned it. It is one of the best moments I think ever. I think it's so, because he's there and he's just like looking around, kind of like side eyeing everybody, and then he's like at one point just mouthing words. And somebody can look how he mouths the words is how the exact opposite of what I think he would look like singing. Like he has a different way of moving his mouth. Like he's literally, sort of like a stereotype, or not a stereotype, like really exaggerated cadence when he's saying them without saying anything. It's pretty funny.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. And you could pick him out of all those people. He just looks, just almost looks out of place, and it's very funny. And again, I'm like, is he trolling? Is this real? And even leading up to the recording, it was getting possibly leaked to the public that this was happening, and everyone was freaking out, because they're like, if Bob Dylan shows up to this friggin' studio and there's a group of people, a crowd of people here, he's just going to turn around. He's not going to want to do this. So it was pretty funny to see them say that, and then he's in the recording studio just mashed in a group of people. But
it's pretty funny, because you don't think that Bob Dylan would be the cornerstone they would build this thing on. I mean, everybody else makes sense. I mean,
yeah,
Bob Dylan doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I don't think I can make the case that Willie Nelson really doesn't really make a whole lot of sense because he's got kind of a distinct vocal way as well. And I
Hmm.
get Bruce Springsteen at this time is huge. Bruce Springsteen is probably the number one artist in the world right next to Michael Jackson at the time.
Hmm.
His voice is pretty distinct. I don't know if that really stands alongside these artists as well. So it's pretty kind of an interesting group of people.
Yeah, and I actually wanted to ask you about that. I wanted you to give your opinion on Bruce Springsteen because they even mentioned that in the documentary. They said, well, they were kind of worried
Really?
about Bruce's voice. Yeah, because it's super distinct. And
Mm-hmm.
I haven't listened to a lot of Springsteen, but when you go from all of them singing in harmony and it's like, okay, we're gonna do solos, Bruce, come on up, and then he starts
Right.
singing, it's like, yeah, that's Bruce Springsteen, he's singing, but it's like it doesn't feel like it melds at all with
Right.
what you're showing up to that point.
Right. And I think that's just it's that star power factor. That you
Mm-hmm.
have guys like Bruce Springsteen, you have guys that like Bob Dylan, Willie Nelson, you know, huge when it comes to the Americana songbook, United States,
Mm-hmm.
American songwriting. Obviously, Willie Nelson from the countryside, Dylan all over the place, folk and country. And so at this point, Bruce Springsteen, when he first started, he was compared to the next Bob Dylan. He was Bob Dylan 2.0,
Oh.
with a heavier sound, a deeper sound, that he was going to take American music to the next level. That sort of that genre, that Americana genre, songs that tell stories. And
Yes.
my opinion, and we've Bruce Springsteen is on the list of people to talk about in the show, but I'm going to say right now, I think Bruce Springsteen, especially in this day and age, is just a tad overrated.
Wow.
And I believe that, and he inducted Bob Dylan into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and he said that Elvis freed your body, but Dylan freed your mind. And so you could see where he's coming
Hmm.
from with that thought. And I think that Springsteen, all of his early stuff is really, really good. Albums like The River, Nebraska, Darkness on the Edge of Town, those are all important albums, good albums. But I think you could start and end his catalog right there, and everything else is just like whatever. That's just my opinion on it.
That's a really interesting opinion because I feel like, would you say a lot of people share that or no?
No, no, no. Bruce Springsteen has a very loyal,
Hmm.
a huge fan base. He crosses generations. He's a guy like he's like a Billy Joel or like any of these other bands where you could go like one night and know every song and go the next night and still know every song.
Hmm.
His catalog is that big. His musicians are that good. With he, I think I think he's like now with Ticketmaster, right? So the Ticketmaster, the big thing is like
Right.
Taylor Swift is you can't get a ticket to Taylor Swift. There's no way you could pay retail price to see Taylor Swift. I think what's happening to Bruce Springsteen because I think he's doing or was doing like a world tour.
Hmm.
And it was the same thing. You couldn't get Bruce Springsteen tickets because everybody's trying to get Springsteen tickets. And he said, "Well, that's kind of how it goes. That's like what the prices are. What the prices are like. I don't know
Wow.
what to say." And I'm thinking, what an a-hole
Yeah.
to say that. And if you listen to his old stuff, like, and that's why I say like his older stuff, he basically every song is kind of the same setup. The guy from Jersey, he's working real hard, nothing's working out, and here I am. And so it's like it's kind of he writes this. He has this sort of, I wouldn't say anti-capitalist message, but certainly questioning the system, questioning what am I doing, all these kind of things. And now he's the pinnacle of uh, issues with capitalism, such as concert tickets, inflation, paying out the H to see a concert for entertainment. When in reality, without these people, you'd have nothing. There'd be nothing there. And
Right.
then he's there with the climate stuff and Obama, and all he does is just. I think it's all for his. I think Springsteen has a real huge ego. I really do. I get the vibe that he does, and I don't think he believes. I think he did the albums that he thought were pretty good, and he's evolved into this sort of industry monster that I just don't care for. But we could talk about that
Man,
in
that's
depth too, because I think it's worthy of something that you would worthy of you checking out.
I would absolutely love to, because I find that
Yeah.
pretty interesting, because I've heard of Bruce Springsteen a lot. I mean, as we all know, I don't listen to that much older music, and
Hmm.
but I mean, Bruce Springsteen's like a household name, like everyone knows him.
Right.
Um, but that is pretty interesting. We should definitely do some kind of deep
Yeah.
dive. Now, with saying that, do you think that Bruce Springsteen doing "We Are the World"? Do you think he did it for nefarious purposes to like? Do you think he was like, "Oh, I'm the
Yeah.
biggest, so I deserve to be on here," kind of
You
thing?
know, I don't know when Bruce Springsteen started believing in his own ego or believing his own hype, but
Yeah,
but it makes total sense that he's there because, like I said, in the '80s. I mean, Bruce Springsteen, Michael Jackson, Billy Joel, all these artists are top tier. I mean,
sure.
Kenny Rogers too. I mean, he's the number one selling duet artist of all time. Like he has a ton of hits and gold records. All these guys make sense because they're there. It's like, okay, this is like turning on. Okay, the Taylor Swift of the era is on. You know,
Hmm.
getting everybody together. So it makes sense. Like I said, I don't really know when Springsteen started buying this into his own hype. But I think that it totally makes sense in how he fits into this.
Okay, I see. That does make sense. So okay, so yeah, so Bruce Springsteen does a solo, and they're calling these the serious fills. That's what the producer was saying. Like, we got to get the serious vocalists up here. We're gonna have them do their solo parts. We're gonna add them in. Blah blah blah. So you got Bruce Springsteen up there, and then you have Bob Dylan, and
Yeah.
he comes up to the mic again. He looks like terrified or something. I have no idea. He looks aghast, like he shouldn't be
Mhm.
there. And then they cue him up, and he starts singing, and he's literally this is supposed to be a solo, by the way. You're supposed to belt it out. He's just
Right.
bumbling, completely
Oh
bumbling.
no. Oh no.
And I'm like, what is going on here? I mean, this is a music artist. Why can't Bob Dylan do this? And I could not find an answer, Dixon. I couldn't figure it out. I'm like, I don't know why he's doing this. Would you have any clue as to why Bob Dylan, who is obviously accustomed to singing, why he would go up there and just mumble the words when it's his turn to sing his solo part?
But I think because he mumbles. He's never sang anything. He's never been a singer ever, and this isn't his deal. I mean, Bob Dylan started in the folk clubs in Greenwich Village in New York City,
Mm-hmm.
and now you're talking Los Angeles, California. Up to this time, probably the biggest ensemble of artists ever. Bob Dylan isn't used to all this stuff. He's not used to this. He's not.
Okay.
This isn't his scene. This is not. And to, like I guess at this point, I mean, at this point in Bob Dylan's career in the '80s, I mean, he's struggling. He had just gotten off his religious kind of thing after he converted to Christianity after his came out of the depths of his heroin addiction.
Mm-hmm.
He's releasing albums that are tanking. In 1985, he released Empire Burlesque, which might be one of the worst albums of all time.
Oh
Um,
wow.
it's I mean, even by Bob Dylan standards. So his inclusion, he's not the Bob Dylan of the 60s and 70s where you had hits, you knew he was on the radio, those kind of things. You still had his old stuff. I mean, this is already 20 years into his 20 years into his career, which is insane to think about. and he's
True,
still
yeah.
touring today. This is 40 years later, and he's still around. He's still making music, which is wild.
That really is.
Yeah, so he just doesn't fit into the whole thing. He's definitely not a soloist. He definitely isn't. But I think to have Bob Dylan, to have um, the guy who took the American Songbook written by Woody Guthrie, and to take that to the next level, I think you have to have him. If you're talking USA helping out
Right.
all the
Right.
artists that are behind it, that's the only reason why I think it makes sense. And I think you could have just had him there and just like said, "Oh, Bob Dylan's on the track," and that's it.
Yeah, he's in the chorus. You know, he's on the track.
Right.
There you go.
But with that being said, Quincy Jones is such a talented and innovative producer. I think to have Dylan's voice is what he wanted to do as far as a production standpoint. To have that balance, of diversity in terms of range and octaves and things like that. As far as a voice, he is certainly distinct. It's recognizable.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
Rolling Stone ranked him as a top singer. and I think that makes sense in his genre and in his music. But as far as when you put him up against people that are there, it just doesn't really make sense.
Okay, I see what you're saying, but yeah, I think you're right. I think Quincy Jones had the he had the outlook that okay, we don't he doesn't I don't think that he wanted it to be just a cohesive, harmonized
Right.
thing. I think he wanted
Right.
certain people to stick out. I think he wanted it to be unique. He got the people, flexing their pipes in some instances and having those unique people stand out. I think you're right. I think that's what he wanted.
Definitely.
And the funny part is Bob Dylan eventually gets through his solo in the way that he does that. I'm sure I don't know if you know this actually, but Stevie Wonder trains him right there to sing his solo part. Did you know this?
No, I had no idea. That's odd. This is one of the most. This has got to be one of the most iconic moments ever. That Stevie Wonder is coaching Bob Dylan. Oh my gosh, that's incredible.
So he takes. They take Stevie Wonder over to the piano. Bob Dylan comes with him, and he's like, "Oh, you got to sing it like this. You just got to do this. We're gonna get through it." And he's like coaching him, and Stevie Wonder is singing as Bob Dylan, like he's mimicking his voice, and he's like, "Yeah, do it like this. Do it like this."
Oh my goodness, that is incredible.
It was fantastic. And by the way, at this point, it's like 2:30 in the morning while they're doing this, and they had to pause to train Bob Dylan. So Bob Dylan goes back and he just starts belting it out, and it sounds like Bob Dylan. It sounds unique. It sounds great, in my opinion.
Sure. Right.
And then there was a little moment there where I felt very. It was a very sweet moment because they finish his part, they wrap it up, and everyone starts clapping for Bob. They're like, you did it, Dylan, we got it. Quinn's like, oh my God, that was perfect. And he's like, nah, it wasn't, guys. Come on. Like,
so funny. This is incredible.
It made me like really feel for Bob. I'm like, Bob Dylan, he's like he's a real guy. Maybe he's not just a troll. And then Quincy's like, no, really, it was good. He's like, no, you're just saying that. It was.
Oh my God, it's so funny, and it's so funny because if you like, I think if you reverse roles and said, hey, everybody, take 20 minutes and write a song, that means something. Bob Dylan blows you out of the water.
Oh my God, yeah.
And so and then he's the exact opposite. We have Bob Dylan, who is the one of the maybe the greatest American artist of all time, and certainly the greatest songwriter of all time as far as American music goes. And they're like, oh, great job. And he's like, no, whatever. Like that is so funny. It was just so out of place.
It was really something. It was so funny to see because like as he's recording it too, Stevie Wonder is like in the background and he's jamming out, like singing along with him, mouthing the words like while Bob Dylan is up there doing it. It was fantastic. It was a great moment. Probably my favorite moment in the whole thing.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. It's so funny that it all comes back to Bob Dylan eventually.
I know. I was saying, I'm like, damn it, Bob Dylan's here too. I can't believe it. So
that is so great.
So after that, they do all this. They finally finish recording at sunrise on the 29th. It's truly a marathon recording session. Everyone goes home. Leave it to the producers and the engineers to put everything together. They got everything that they needed. And then it releases in March of 1985. And I don't know if this was like a common knowledge thing, because I had no idea that they did this, but they played it at the same time all around the world at 7:50.
Oh, really? That's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Like, wow. No, I didn't know that either.
Yep. So as it stands, as the story went, it sold over 20 million copies, going quadruple platinum, 9th best-selling physical single of all time, and ended up raising $60 million for the African famine relief.
Wow, that's $60 million. I mean, that ain't chump change back in the day. Wow, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, so that is the whole story of what happened, and like I said, the most interesting parts were, well, first of all, the fact that it was done the night of the AMAs. I thought that was like pretty crazy that they were able to do something like that. That line,
Mm-hmm.
Lionel Richie, he's literally hosting and winning awards, and then he runs right to the studio at 10 p.m. and they start at 10 p.m. and finish at sunrise on the 29th. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that is pretty impressive, and that's really a truly an artist there.
Mm-hmm.
Because there were so many moving parts, especially like I said, the logistics of it. I mean,
Yeah.
logistics alone, this is definitely really, really impressive.
Oh yeah, yeah, 100%. And then again, with Bob Dylan up there, Stevie Wonder literally coaching him.
Oh my gosh.
It was pretty fantastic. I highly suggest people watch it. There's a lot of other little stuff in there, like Beldoff arguing with Ray Charles about adding Swahili in there. It's just like, well, no, he's like, we're not going to add Swahili in here. We're not going to do that. We're talking to the people that can help. We're not talking to the people that are starving. It was,
Oh my
it was pretty. There's some good.
funny.
There's some good moments. There's some good moments.
Oh man, that is so funny. So I really am gonna check this out because I think, like I said, I saw it before, and then you were just talking about this
Mhm.
before you even saw the documentary. You're like, oh, I saw this come across. Do you know what it is? And I kind of had a general idea, but I'd never listened to the song before, and I listened to the song when we first started talking about this.
Mhm.
And so, what did you think about the song itself?
To be honest, it really, to me, it had the same soul essentially as "Do They Know It's Christmas." That's kind of what it felt like to me, and I don't know if I was spoiled by knowing the connection between the two. I don't know if
Right.
I don't know if you got that. It felt like it was in the same spirit.
I definitely get the spirit. Yes,
Yeah,
100%. I'm with you. Yeah.
and I mean, in my opinion, I think where it definitely shines is the power behind the vocals.
Hmm.
Um, I you're definitely more on the lyrics. I don't know how I felt about the whole thing lyric wise. I want to like the song, but maybe it's overshadowed by the vocals and everything that I saw within the documentary. What did you think about the song?
Um, I mean, I really like the novelty of it.
Yes.
Because these things don't happen ever like this now. Nobody does anything like this anymore.
Hmm.
Um, and I do like the song. Do They Know It's Christmas? I think that's a good song. Like I said, it was definitely on our list somewhere as far as top Christmas songs go, and maybe that's the nostalgia factor. I will tell you what, I don't
Yeah.
think this is a good song. I don't think
Okay.
it's that good.
That's
I,
I was kind of leaning that way, and I didn't want to come out right and say it immediately. I kind of agree with you, and I think it almost has to do with how much. I mean, watching the documentary, it really seems like they rushed this song.
Oh, sure. Yeah, well, absolutely. There's definitely seems like there was a time crunch there.
Yeah.
And like I said, I think it's cool. The novelty of it is cool. Um, I don't think I think that Bruce Springsteen solo and Bob Dylan solo, they don't make sense. Waylon Jennings
Yeah.
is in the background there on the chorus. I mean, where the hell did they pull Waylon Jennings? What beer soaked
Oh my
place
God.
did they find Waylon Jennings and roll him in there? Like, oh, let's get Waylon Jennings in here. My gosh, he's singing for Africa. Dude, there's no way. There's no way Waylon Jennings has anything or wants anything to do with Africa. I'm just saying that. Maybe I'm wrong.
Oh my
You know,
God, it's
maybe-
incredible.
maybe I'm wrong.
This is amazing.
The idea that Mr. Outlaw Country, drug addicted, alcoholic, Johnny Cash writes outlaw songs, and Waylon Jennings is his inspiration while he's doing that because it's like, okay, he's all the songs that Johnny Cash, he lived out those songs that Johnny Cash wrote. I mean, that makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah.
Michael Jackson, I think, Michael Jackson being involved in this project, Michael Jackson wanted to be the best in everything. And it's
Yeah.
the psychology and the psychological abuse he endured as a child star is hanging over. And you could see he's starting to get into that point where he's starting to buy into his own hype. And obviously this is a great idea. You know, there's people in need. There's people out there that have it a lot worse than we do in the United States. Even though we're having issues, you know, people
Sure.
still want to come here. They're coming here in droves. Obviously, if we look at to the south a little bit, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Um, and so it's a noble cause. It's really noble. I don't see the appeal of it, but it is what it is. I mean, hey, great.
Yeah.
Like I said, nobody does this anymore. This is never going to happen again. Maybe for good reason, but like I said, definitely a noble cause, definitely important. Um, important history and a moment in the history of music.
Mhm.
But as far as like a song, I don't know. I think it kind of misses the mark. It
Ye-
just is what it is.
Yeah, I literally think the only thing for me is the idea that you have 40 people singing. Like I
Yeah,
said, the power of the vocals behind it.
right.
You have all this talent behind it, but I think what you said, it just doesn't make sense when it all comes together. And
Hmm.
I was kind of shocked at that because they had 3 months to kind of produce this and put it together in a way that made sense.
Right.
Um, and I wonder if that was due to the fact that the recording was one night only. There was no coming back. There was no, oh, we got to re-record this part. We didn't get this one. This one doesn't match. It
Right.
just didn't happen like that. It just they got what they got, and that was it.
Right.
But even like what you were saying, it goes down to almost the core of the song because I think the way that it's written just isn't that great. And when you
Hmm.
watch the documentary and Lionel talks about them making the song, they're just kind of humming it out. They didn't even have the lyrics for it. They just were mumbling it like
Yeah.
not just nonsense words going along. And I think they just had a kind of chord structure that they liked. And then they just said, well, what else could we do? And then that's when Michael Jackson started We Are the World. I think Lionel credits him for that. And then they just went from there essentially.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
And
I
then
hear
it just all went into place, yeah.
you. Well, good work, guys. I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
hey, well, I guess you did okay.
But pretty interesting. That's that the documentary on Netflix. I'm gonna have to check that out. That seems like it's pretty cool. Like I said, I think this is like a once in a lifetime thing. This can possibly never happen again. I don't think. You imagine getting Taylor Swift and like Beyonce in the same room. You talk about like ego. There's
Yeah,
no way. There's
I
no way this works today.
absolutely not. I think you would have. Oh my God, I'm thinking about this and the amount of ego that I'm sure they had ego back then, but now
Sure.
is
Right.
it's even more with the social media, the constant attention, the constant approval
Right.
and appraisal from everyone around you. It's just so much that I don't think that this would work. The competition would be insane. The ego would be insane.
Hmm.
I think it would just be a self glamorizing project more than anything.
Oh yeah, for sure. And and I think to be quite frank, I don't think you have the songwriters in this day and age that you did back then.
True.
It's mostly it's pop. It's written for radio. It's a lot of hip hop, which is fine. But as far as like getting this impressive group of people together, I feel like they're like artists come and they go. There's like nobody's long standing anymore. With the exception of the
Yeah.
Taylor Swifts and Beyonces and Jay-Z and all that kind of stuff.
But even then, Dixon, it's not like they're doing anything that's revolutionary. I mean, Taylor
Right.
Swift is just writing pop songs. There's nothing like
Right.
super special about it. So you're right. You can't have someone who's a great songwriter that's been around for a while like Taylor Swift and come in and write something like this because it just wouldn't work. It would never happen.
Hmm. No, yeah, for sure. It's a sad state of affairs, and
It is.
and let's just take a moment. Let's just take a moment. Let's wrap up the show on a bad note. When we talk about this, Taylor Swift, right?
Yeah.
So we're just weeks away from the big game, right? And you have possibly one of the most unwatchable Super Bowls in history in modern time. You have San Francisco and you have Kansas City, right? Kansas City
Right.
Chiefs.
Right.
Um, the whole thing, it's obvious, it's completely obvious that the NFL wants Taylor Swift in the Super Bowl. They want Taylor Swift there. They want people to watch it. It has nothing to do with sport and who's the
Hmm.
best player and who's the best team. Patrick Mahomes is a very good quarterback. He's very good.
Yes.
Travis Kelce really wasn't all that popular, all that talented until he met Taylor Swift, right? Christian McCaffrey on the San Francisco, incredible athlete, incredible athlete. The quarterback of San Francisco, Brock Purdy, irrelevant for years, and now he's going to the Super Bowl. Great. Okay, I respect all this.
Mhm.
It is obvious the NFL could not care less, and they want Taylor Swift at the Super Bowl, and that's what this game comes down to. It
Yeah.
came down to when it was in the in the divisional.
Yeah.
So you had the hopes and dreams of Detroit crushed. I mean, they
Oh,
did give that game away, but
they
Detroit,
did, yeah, but
Detroit could get any help. Any help Detroit, the city, the football team, the people, they will take whatever you can give Detroit, they will take. Instead of making it like a feel good, like David and Goliath, like, oh, let's put Detroit, like I'm speaking from the NFL script work, right?
right.
No, they had to go traditional. They had to go, okay, whatever. And they want that effing Taylor Swift there. Meanwhile, let's think about the logistics of Taylor Swift, because this is why they want this. There's something going on with Taylor Swift, like in that couple days around it. She's touring. It's either like hours before or a day before that she's in like a totally different place
Really? See,
for her concert tour.
I didn't know this. I had no idea.
Yes. So the drama is hinging that, oh my gosh, is Taylor Swift going to make it to the Super Bowl? Does she have the
Oh
time?
my
Can she do
God.
it? Right? They want Taylor Swift involved in this whole mother effing thing. Taylor Swift is going to go there. She's going to steal the show, right? I think the big thing and what they want, and I'm really talking out of my ass here, and I'm really talking Mr. Conspiracy.
No, let's hear it. Let's hear it.
This is gonna transition into Taylor Swift being like, oh, okay, guys, we have to vote for Joe Biden now to save America and go forward. Like she's gonna propose and she's gonna make a big political endorsement. And let's look at the facts. I mean, I think she said like register to vote. Like she made a TikTok or something like register to vote.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as a result of that, like 30,000 or something, some crazy number, 30,000 more people registered to vote. So she's got some pull. So if you can control Taylor Swift in this day and age, you can control the media, you can control a good portion of young women who hang on every word they say. She says.
That's kind of scary, isn't it?
It's a very frightening time to be alive, but you have no control over your sports, your politics, whatever it might be. It's just completely steamrolled into whatever Taylor Swift wants, and nobody seems to have a problem with
this. It's so frustrating, Dixon. I could see it right now. You're gonna have like the Taylor watch. They're gonna have the Taylor cam at the Super Bowl,
right?
And as it's starting, you're gonna see like they're gonna have a camera on Taylor as she's like rushing into the stadium, and it's gonna be this big 100%,
thing. Yeah.
Oh my God! That honestly really disappointed me, and I kind of want the Chiefs to lose now because of that. Because I just don't. Yeah, I don't want to see her take another. She has enough victories.
Yes, she has enough. Yes,
she has enough. Why the hell? All in the same year, she started dating this friggin' guy, and now he's going to the Super Bowl. It's just like. Can we just stop? I want Detroit to get in there so bad and then just kick their asses. Would have been the best thing. But no, you're right. We got to have this friggin' cookie cutter mass audience appealing. We got the Chiefs with Taylor Swift against the 49ers. Okay, great.
Yeah. Great, and we could have had Eminem and Kid Rock, Detroit, right?
Yes.
Now we have Taylor effing Swift and Travis Kelce. I mean, get over yourselves. And it's no coincidence. I'm telling you right now. I'm telling you what. I'm dropping a lot of bombs, and I feel pretty angry right now, and I'm sorry for that. But it's no coincidence.
It's forgiven.
That Travis Kelce is Mr. Vax when it comes to the NFL. He's in the Pfizer commercials. He's has the podcast with his brother. It's really no coincidence that you had him from the NFL pushing some Vax information, knowledge, commercials, that kind of thing.
I don't know this either. I had no idea.
It's all perfectly aligned into sports being entertainment and that you really have no choice in what you consume as far as media wise. Taylor Swift is going to be everywhere, and you're just going to have to enjoy it and live with it.
Wow.
All right, everybody. Well, good night.
Wow, okay, thanks for that, Dixon. I appreciate it. On that bombshell. I want to say one more quick. I want to say one more quick thing, just to
for sure,
just to wrap it up on how much control Taylor actually has and how much more that authority figures and the government have as opposed to the little people like us. So, have you heard about this Taylor Swift AI porn scandal?
No, I have not.
Oh, you haven't?
No.
Well,
oh my goodness.
There's some pretty realistic looking, very graphic pornography of of Taylor Swift. It's AI generated. It's not real, but it very much looks real. And I'll just say it features her with the Chiefs. We'll leave it at that.
Oh my goodness! You can't even just wank anymore in peace. Unbelievable.
So this AI stuff's been going on forever. Girls all over the world have probably gotten their face or whatever thrown into an AI generator, and stuff's been generated from them. They've probably seen it, got pissed off, tried to, raise hell about it, try to get the authorities involved or whatever. Nothing happens.
You were on this early too, I might add. You were talking about the dangers of AI early on this show when we were still figuring out where we were headed with this.
Yes, exactly. And here we are.
Yeah, here we are.
Here we are. Now this stuff is happening. It's definitely, and we're only seeing like the tip of the iceberg with this kind of stuff.
For sure.
But yeah, so the way it wraps all the way back around to Taylor is that, so like I said, run of the mill everyday girls have had this stuff happen to them. Nothing gets done about it, even though, they make a big stink about it. But now, because Taylor Swift had it happen to her, the government's up in arms. President Biden made an announcement, or like at least the White House did in general, and they said we have to look into AI porn, and we're going to put a stop to this.
Oh my gosh!
So now because she had something happen to her, now the government's going to react. But essentially because she's angry about it, even though it's not real stuff, now we're going to have laws imposed on us because of that.
We can't even AI generate anything we want.
I'm not even saying to do like whatever lewd stuff like that, but
yeah, absolutely.
It could have a waterfall effect on like, oh well, you can't generate any likeness on AI. You can't make, if you generate something that just coincidentally has a semblance to someone famous, you're going to get sued now automatically, because they're going to have AI to track what you make. I could see this happening.
Yeah, it's not.
I'm just saying. Yeah.
And it's very interesting, and I think it's one of those moments like, oh, it's like Jurassic Park where they said, "Oh, you did it, but you didn't even ask if you should."
Yeah. Yes.
Like, we have this technology. Do we need this? Should we have this?
Yes.
Kind of interesting. I don't know. Yeah. That'll be. We'll see how it goes. Well,
yeah.
And now you know who to subscribe to with any gloomy doom impending issues. Here it is. Such is life. So yeah, interesting stuff.
Someone's gonna click on this looking for "We Are the World," something happy, and then we're ending it with like, your life is over. You don't have any choice anymore.
all things are Taylor's.
All things are Taylor's. Oh man.
Oh my gosh, unbelievable, man. Well, but you know what? It is what it is, and here we are. So
yeah, guys, always remember, we are the world. And if you want to raise some for some stuff for our famine over here, we have a subscriber famine currently, so make sure to donate. Give us some subscribers. 60 million would be nice, but we'll settle for, I don't know, 10K, 11K.
Yeah. So we'll set up for 10K for sure. Absolutely, yeah. We are definitely in need.
Yeah, so. Yeah, we are in need. So we appreciate everything you guys do. Please like the video or dislike it. or subscribe. But also, please comment. Let us know what you think about the video. Let us know what you think about We Are the World. Let us know what you think about our doom and gloom. And, and guys, we will see you in the next episode.
Peace.